Hello and welcome back to the Sandbox tutorial. In today's episode we are going to be talking about roofing. So we have some different options. For now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and I am just going to build up just a little bit so we can see what we're doing. We're going to extend this out. Go. And one more wall just to make it a little bit easier for us to deal with this. I'm also going to extend this out. There we go. I'm going to make a nice basic L shape here for this tutorial. There we go. So let's suppose this is our ceiling. And we're building the top floor. So the first thing, or the roofing. So the first thing I always do with the roofing is I make this too tall. So I don't use just one block down there for my ceiling when I'm building the roof on top of it. I do two. And that's because how you do the roofing, it can cause the edge of the roof to actually clip inside your house. And that drives me absolutely nuts. So we're gonna go hit 7, which is what I've put my roof tool on. You can also just access it in the menu and build your roof. Again, as we've talked about before, down the bottom left you see we have options. So if you hit R, you can change to gable roof. So if we go back to the beginning, we have a hip roof, and we have gable, half hip, sloped, hip corner, and then back to hip. So a hip, I've only, really growing up, I only ever saw gable roofs, but now that I've seen these hip roofs, I see these all the time. Nice and simple, coming up into the point, perfect. All right, the next kind is the gable roof, which is one that we see quite a lot of out in the wild, and you get a nice gable roof. If while you're building it, you can use the middle mouse button to rotate it until you get to the right rotation you want. Another important thing is if you need to modify this, you can go into your architect tool and change to change style. And when you go to change the style, you'll have a bunch of different options here. The most important option is the roof pitch. So you can make the roof taller. So you get a nice really tall frame here, like if you're building an A-frame. And then you can change the roof type. So this kind of shingle, the barrel roof tiles, you cannot change the color. That's because they're barrel roof. The fish scale roof tiles gives you an option to change the color. Then you can change to steel roof tiles, which you can change the color of as well. And then last but certainly not least, you have the wooden roof shingles, which you cannot change the color of. While you're in this mode, you could have also changed your roof type. So you could change from gable back to hip. And that looks ridiculous. I actually saw a house in my neighborhood that has this kind of roof on its garage, like this tall too. But we could go back to our gable. We could change to these other ones, which we'll get into here in a second. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and remove this. Now let's go back to our roof tool. We have the half hip. So you'll notice as I'm building this out, you'll see that it's cut off the original hip in half. Technically you could build with the half hip again. Use the middle mouse button to rotate it. And technically you could finish it off like this and connect them in. Does leave a little bit of a gap right there, but that's fine for right now. This is just a simple tutorial. Go ahead and remove those. So we had a hip, gable, half hip, and then we have sloped. Nice big slope here. You can rotate it. So like, let's say we wanted to do it this way. And then when you go to change the style, you can lower it down and raise it up as you need. And then we will remove that. And we will go to the last option, which is the hip corner. And again, it just does a quarter piece of the original hip. Just like that. So if we were to do that again, and we were even in our calculations, this would have evened out. Now, when you start to bring in roofs, like if we did a gable roof, you will notice that this is not normal for most roofing, is that this would extend out over the wall as it would on this side. So I like to use the transform tool, and if you hit Q, you get an option to resize. And I just do this, you get a bunch of arrows. We'll cover resize a little bit more in detail, but this is just a step-by-step to expand it once on each side. So now we're extended out a little bit, nice and pretty. And we'll extend out once and once on this side. And if you remember back to our tutorial from the last episode, if we go into our build walls tool, hit the Q button and change to limited by roof, we could then fill this in. Whoops. Hit Z when you make mistakes. There we go. Nice and filled in. Looks really good as a roof option. We'll fill in the rest of that. Perfect. Now, why did I build this L shape? Because I am going to build another gable. I'm going to rotate it so it's like this. Alright, now that I've got it placed, I like the dimensions of it, so I'm going to resize it once on each side, once over here. And now I can take this side and start to push it in like that. Now you'll notice, because of the settings we had, the game automatically identified a roof meeting a roof. Didn't extend this piece out or anything. And it looks really, really good. And then we can fill in the wall here. There we go. And we have a nice L-shaped gable roof. And if we go look inside, you'll notice that that also did not clip through. Gave us a little crawl space up here and an even smaller crawl space down here. And that's perfectly okay. And because we did 2 blocks, I'm going to turn on my flashlight with F. You'll notice that the edge of the roof did not come into our house. And just to show you, if I remove one, and because we extended out beyond the edge of the house, this does not come out. Now if you wanted vaulted ceilings, you could do that and you will see our ceiling. Totally up to you how you want to play and how you want to operate, but these are some very simple ways to make some very basic roofing. There are a lot of different things that you can do with roofing, totally up to you and how you play or what kind of roof you want to build. I know some people will also just make flat roofs, which I do quite often. Go ahead and put this back in. Now there is another item here where I'm just going to extend this out like this, which is where some of the hip stuff really comes into play. And that's being able to kind of wrap a roof around a central edge. So like, let's say we had another building right here, another like a second floor to the building. We could take our roof and we could do the hip corner and extend it to like right there. And now you can take, come on, the sloped roof and do that. And so now you start to extend out, and you can kind of do like a wrapped around porch that has a lower height than the rest of the house. You could wrap around the porch this way. You can always adjust the slope and the height there, and it gives you just some other options. Now sometimes when you're building roofing, you want to change these settings here. So you have this do not clip other roofs, and then you have this do not be clipped by other roofs. There are occasions in which you'll want to do this. We'll cover those with more complicated tutorials, but for now this is I recommend you kind of play around with it just to see what you can do. As you notice, our little clippy line that we had here before is now gone, but now we get this thing kind of freaking out a little bit because these are now technically clipping each other. Looks fine from afar, and it would look even better if you painted it, but again, this isn't necessarily everything about roofing. Roofing is very complicated, and it really just depends on the style you're looking at. I highly recommend that if you're going to start with a roof, you start with a gable roof. Those are the easiest to do. After that, you know, the slope roof is a good one as well. I like to use flat roofs a lot, which aren't technically flat. They have a slight slope to them in real life, but really just up to the house that you're building, the style that you want. And then these are the basic tools for building your roofing. Thank you for joining, and I'll see you all next time.